Hey YouTubers, it's Richie here and I'm making a short video about sugar. Now, it's quite a big topic obviously in the Western world currently. And I'm just basically going to read an extract from a book written by a lady called Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. She's a doctor of medicine, neurology and nutrition, and she released a book called GAPS, Gut and Psychology Syndrome. You can see the picture there, that's her book. So, apologies to her, I hope this isn't copyright or whatever, but I'm going to read an extract because I think it's just so spot on. It's in one of the sections of the book and it just is entitled Sugar and Anything Made With It. It says, sugar was once called a white death. It deserves 100% of this title. The consumption of sugar in the world has grown to enormous proportions in the last century. It is estimated that an average Western person consumes between 160 to 200 pounds of this highly processed substance per year. Sugar is everywhere, and it's hard to find any processed food without it. Everywhere you go these days, it's true. We just, nip into a petrol station, you'd see just a shelf 12, 13 foot long full of sugary crap, and it's because they know you're going to buy this shit. They put it right next to, so it's impure. They know it's the biggest, it's going to make the most money for them. It's the most profitable product they're going to get rid of, so they try and shift it as hard as possible. Anyway, apart from causing the blood glucose roller coaster and having detrimental effects on gut flora, it has been shown to have a direct damaging effect on the immune system, which is already compromised in GAPS patients. On top of that, to deal with the sugar onslaught, the body has to use available minerals, vitamins and enzymes at an alarming rate, finishing up being depleted of these vital substances. She goes on. For example, to metabolize only one molecule of sugar, the body requires around 56 molecules of magnesium. Consumption of sugar is a major reason for widespread magnesium deficiency in our modern society, leading to high blood pressure, neurological, immune, and many other problems. A GAPS patient, just for in case you weren't aware, GAPS stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome, so that covers a whole host of psychiatric or psychological conditions. In the title of the book, she lists as autism, dyspraxia, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, depression, and schizophrenia as, examples, I guess. So where was I? A GAPS patient is already deficient in magnesium and many other vital nutrients and should not have sugar in any form. Cakes, sweets and other confectioneries are made with sugar and wheat as the main ingredients, plus lots of chemicals like colour preservatives, flavourings, etc. It goes without saying that they should be out of the diet with or without gluten. Soft drinks are a major source of sugar in our modern diets, not to mention all the chemical additives. A can of soda can contain between 5 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. Fruit juices are full of processed fruit sugars and mold. So when you're buying a fruit juice and you think it's healthy, it's not healthy because they've basically pasteurized it. When it's pasteurized, it means that they boiled it up to get rid of any bacteria so that they can then ensure that it lasts for as long as possible on the shelves, and shelf life is incredibly important for profitability. So it's nothing to do with you being healthy, it's to do with them making as much money as possible out of the transaction. So unless freshly pressed, they should not be in your diet either. Aspartame, a sugar replacement in the so-called diet drinks, in inverted commas, has been found to be carcinogenic and neurotoxic and most definitely should be avoided by all GAPS children and adults. The industry keeps coming up with new processed and artificial sweeteners, xylitol, corn syrup, agave syrup, other syrups, etc. None of them can be trusted and it is essential for GAPS patients to avoid them all. Now obviously that doesn't apply to all of us because, this specifically for GAPS patients, such as what she's saying. Sugar and wheat are so insidious that it can be very hard to find any processed processed food on the supermarket shelves without it. To summarise, any GAPS patients, whether autistic, schizophrenic, hyperactive, dyslexic, asthmatic, etc., should have no processed foods in his or her diet. All foods should be brought fresh, as close to the way nature intended as possible, and prepared at home. A digestive tract is a long tube. What you fill that tube with has a direct effect on its well-being. A GAPS digestive system is damaged and very sensitive. You cannot trust any food manufacturers to fill it. You have to feel your GAPS child or GAPS adult in your care. Digestive system yourself by freshly cooked, nourishing food, where you're in control and in charge of the exact ingredients and how they are processed. Now, obviously, a lot of the principles can be taken away from what she's saying and applied to people looking to be healthy generally. I say this because I think if you take things to the syndrome or issues that she's mentioned, autism, dyslexia, depression, schizophrenia, attention problems, dyspraxia, which is basically just means malcoordination, those are diagnosed when someone has a severe or significant form of those issues. So if you're heavily malcoordinated, you'd be, as well as having maybe some symptoms with some problems with dyslexia, then you probably have like a dyslexia, dyspraxia diagnosis at some point. But there's plenty of other people out there that are probably not be able to be statemented or diagnosed with those conditions, but nevertheless suffer with something which is to a greater or a lesser extent similar. So what I'm essentially saying is that if you want a healthy child, if you're bringing up a child, follow these kind of principles. If you want to be healthy yourself, follow these kind of principles. Obviously, I'm not saying never eat another bit of sugar again in your life, but especially if you have any gastrointestinal issues, if you have any problems with dyslexia, any problems with depression, any problems with anxiety, then you want to be at least considering these principles that she's making, because they will obviously it makes sense. And obviously, we already know, you don't want to eat too much sugar, but I just think that her summary of, the current situation, the way it's promoted, the way it's marketed, the way it's distributed is just spot on. And yeah, that's why I'm making the video. I hope you like it. Comment, etc. Subscribe.